welcome everyone to the new podcast that we've started. We're calling it The Work and Meditation. And today we're joined by a very special guest, Ms. Marianne Best, who's Abbess of the Church of Conscious Harmony in Austin, Texas. Marianne, welcome, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Roland. It's a privilege to join you today.
Well, Marianne, we talked a little bit about this episode and how we were going to format it and what we were going to talk about. And you said that you have two quotes that you wanted to start out with today. So, Marianne, please share with us these quotes that you think are important for this podcast and our episode today.
Thank you, Roland. I'd like to begin in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Mr. Gurdjieff actually recommended that when beginning anything new is to say that prayer always. So I try to honor that. The first quote that I have is from Maurice Nicoll in the commentaries. And he states that all religion, all esoteric teaching is about the fact that we are born as self-developing organisms. In order by a certain kind of work on ourselves to reach something inherent in us, as a new being is inherent in an egg, which is called real I. The object is to have what is called Christ born in us. We must not think of the historical Christ, but of the fact that the kingdom of heaven lies within you, and that means the realization of real I. If you are only mechanically good or good externally for the sake of your reputation, you can never get to this secret goal, which is inherent from birth in us, a potentiality in any one of us. Now to do this, you must leave imaginary I. Now the application of the work to yourself is all about making it possible to go on a journey, spiritual or psychological, toward what is really you, real I in you. And the other similar quote is from Thomas Keating when he speaks about the purpose of centering prayer, the form of meditation, which I'd like to speak about today. He says, Christian life and growth are founded on faith in our own basic goodness, in the being that God has given us with its transcendent potential. This gift of being is our true self. Through our consent by faith in contemplative prayer, Christ is born in us, and Christ and our true self become one. Our awakening to the presence and action of the Spirit is the unfolding of Christ's resurrection in us. So to me, they're both saying something very similar in terms of the purpose of both the work as well as the method of meditation.
Those are wonderful quotes, and I love how they emphasize the individual, that we're all created unique and we all have unique paths, but we all have equal value.
That's right. And we're all on a journey. It's a real journey, all of us.
And it gives an explanation for why sometimes bad things happen to good people, right?
That's right. That's right. It gives an understanding and context for our life and its ultimate purpose. So for me, it's very enlivening, both of those statements are.
Just the work is Robin described it as a way of knowledge, but I would say, includes self-knowledge.
Yes, and I feel that it's a way of being, if you will. Knowledge, which leads to understanding and to new being of oneself.
And then the wonderful statement from the work that your being attracts your life.
That's very true. Very true. And it
I
may
think,
attract things that perhaps we would not choose either, but it's for the sake of our being.
and I've thought that meditation specifically is a method for increasing being. Would you say that that's accurate?
I would say that's accurate by the surrender of self and the inflow of the divine into our being. Yes.
The surrender, I think, is such a important concept. I really experienced that greatly in my own life, letting go of some attachments to some things that I had that had been taken away from me. But being able to let go of those attachments allowed me to come more fully into who I really am. And that's,
Yes.
the thing that I would want everybody to appreciate. And this is an aspect of the work, is the idea of self-remembering, that we remember ourselves as a loved child of God, a unique creature, unique creation. And then not only ourselves, but we can remember that about other people around us too.
Yes. Yes.
Well, Marianne, maybe we could talk a little bit about the Church of Conscious Harmony and why that is relevant to a podcast about the work in meditation, and talking specifically about your role there too. You hold a distinctive title of Abbess, and I think that implies something about the intention of the community.
Yes, it does. My own role at the church has been a long one and a many storied one. And I could give you a few highlights about the church as well as my own engagement and the rather seemingly unusual title of abbess at a church. But as stated in the bylaws of the Church of Conscious Harmony, the purpose is to facilitate the spiritual journey and God devotion for people who want to make God devotion the center of their lives without living in a monastery. So it is conceived from the beginning as a monastery without walls. And hence we have a title of abbot or abbess at the church to hold the center for that intention. I was, I guess you would say, basically called out of the wilderness many, many years ago by a very dear friend who was a lawyer and who jointly with Tim Cook, who was the co-founder of the church, crafted the bylaws of the Church of Conscious Harmony. And he invited me to attend. And when I attended, Tim was just initiating showing a series of videos on the spiritual journey by Thomas Keating. And I decided to attend that series, and in so doing, learned about the contemplative path, adapted the practice of centering prayer, and really started my own spiritual journey in earnest. I became involved with the church whose teaching also included the work, and attended the work class, which I was taken by as a way of being in life. And that was all started in 1989, believe it or not, which was only a year after founding of the church. In 1993, I joined what was known at the time as the 10th Man School, which was the original school of the church. And in 1999, I joined the board of trustees. The following year, became the president of the board and served in that role for 9 years. And in the meantime, during that time, I was attracted to attend also the Seminary of the Southwest, which is an Episcopal seminary here in Austin, to really study the Bible more and the sacraments. I ultimately graduated from the seminary in 2006. I joined the staff of Contemplative Outreach as the development officer, but also most notably for me, in the last 10 years of Thomas Keating's life, I worked with him and a small group of people on creating new works and videos about the contemplative life.
Well, that's a great example of how CCH has stayed current with technology, and even now we could talk about the technology that CCH has employed to make sure that its offerings are available to people remotely, and that's one thing that I've just been really impressed by is how the Church of Conscious Harmony is very, very conscious about making sure that it can reach people where they're at.
Yes, yes. I was asked to co-create the Journey School, which is the current school of spiritual psychology and practice within the church, at the end of 2019. And shortly thereafter, we came in, of course, to 2020 with the advent of COVID and the pandemic. The church made the decision to switch its offerings online very soon and had already started offering the Journey School online, even from its inception. And so now the reach of over a third of our participants are actually outside of the Austin area, across the country, and even outside of the country. So it's designed so that anyone, anywhere, who wishes to seriously embark upon the spiritual journey would have access to the offerings and teachings by the church, which are a combination of the work of inner Christianity and contemplative Christianity as taught by Thomas Keating and others. And it includes the practice of centering prayer. So we hope to be a living monastery without walls for ordinary lay people who wish to live in an extraordinary way, if you will.
I think everybody that has a sense of spiritual yearning, maybe all at one point, think about what it would be like to join a monastery or a convent or whatever whatever faith tradition that you're from. There's that idea, the monastery, a dedicated community within a walled. Typically that's how we imagine it.
Yes.
But then that requires such a withdrawal from everything that we would had happen in our lives up until that point. And I think this could be a really wonderful model to express to people that they have the ability to be part of a monastery without walls, where they're still out in the world, but they're still on this path of God-devoted spiritual development.
Yes, and they have a community of others who face some of the same challenges, really, that they do. So there are a number of ways to participate to deepen your engagement and involvement, as you know, Roland.
I've really been so blessed by being part of the community that you've helped create, Marianne. So I just would pause here to thank you and so many others, including Robin, who was our guest on the first episode. But there's been very intentional, conscious, we use that word, efforts in how you all have created the community. And I'm wandering in kind of at the last minute, but I'm for sure blessed by what exists, and I think what will continue to grow into the future.
Well, I certainly hope so. It's the work of God, and it will exist as long as the Spirit deems it to be appropriate, which
Yeah.
hopefully is a very long time. That is my wish.
Marianne, the church is distinctively Christian. You named the name of Jesus at the beginning of our podcast, and I'm glad that you did.
Yes.
But one thing that I love about the work is that it seeks to create a language where we can speak about spiritual things with people from any tradition.
That's right. And we do draw upon all traditions, well, or can, in our own teachings, without diluting the Christian focus, if you will.
Because I think, that was Jesus's fundamental message. The reason that people were drawn to him was love, and just the love that he expressed. I think, just unconditional love. They just got a sense of his being. He was magnetic. The people were drawn to him, and any Christian church that I would want to be a part of, must have that as its central focus. But you know, Don Janung, our friend Don Janung, brought this out in a early work class that I took. He talked about replacing the word conscious and consciousness with, or replacing the word love with consciousness. Say that we act towards one another, and not love, which in English it doesn't have the same meaning as it did in the Greek of the New Testament. There are many different words for love. We only have one word for love, but consciousness, I think, is a really wonderful concept, and that's something that's directly related to both the work and meditation, building up a greater consciousness. And you touched on this before, the realizing the difficulties that other people face, and then recognizing that I face the same difficulties.
That's right. That's right. And there are, stages in one's life. So, and there are challenges that, we face during each phase of life, if you will. And having others going through some of the same things somehow, gives me the strength to keep going, if you will.
Yeah, that's the importance of community. We encourage one another, on our journey, and can have empathy for one another, and gain encouragement from one another.
That's right. That's right. I remember when Thomas Keating was interviewed by Father Carl Arico in the summer of 2013, I think it was, in right before the 30th anniversary of contemplative outreach. And Father Carl asked him, Thomas, do you have a word for the community out there that are practicing this form of meditation? And he said, yes, I have a word, and that word is persevere. So that would be the same word that I would offer. When I began my own practice, I had a young child and traveled extensively for my professional life. So sometimes it was difficult, to get those recommended 2 sessions a day of meditation time in. But over time that changed. And I also think we have to be a little bit flexible in what they look like. And it may be that second period of centering prayer or whatever form of meditation someone has is a 10-minute break in your office where you practice. And so it's not in a secluded room somewhere, but it's kind of catch as catch can wherever you are. Or maybe it's on an airplane when you're going somewhere, which was my case.
Well, I love the two things that you said: perseverance and flexibility. And when you were describing being able to meditate really anywhere, even on an airplane, there's
Yeah.
a famous quote. I don't remember who it's from, but it was from the early 20th century, I think, and it said we should be able to meditate in a boiler room, right? I guess a boiler room was a place where water was heated, maybe down in the basement, part of the heating and cooling system, but a place maybe where there are sudden instantaneous noises that could be startling, but yet, we can be so practical in how we treat meditation. We don't have to have cushions or incense, even silence.
That's right.
And so I think as I've learned more and more about meditation, I love that though you brought those two things up, perseverance and flexibility, and I think those two aspects will really serve people as they try to maintain consistency, because it is challenging at first to develop a new practice like this, but I can for sure testify, many can testify, I know you can,
Yes.
of the great results that can be obtained. We don't work for results, but one of the results of a consistent meditation practice is developing an increased presence in your life.
Yes. And the desire to make the time of meditation, it just comes organically that's part of your routine in life. It's like brushing your teeth in the morning. You usually would never think of skipping it. And it's like the same with your period of meditation. It's just something you do. It's part of your life and your rhythm of life.
Marianne, I'll quote our friend Janice Claflin, whom you know, but she was encouraging me, and she said, "You'll develop a hunger for it." And I really recognize that
Absolutely.
it's a time that we get to spend, with centering prayer. That was the blessing to me that I found a meditation tradition that was linked with my faith background, and it just became such a gift to me. The centering prayer, describing that, I think for people that maybe are new to meditation or are Christians and they maybe are even skeptical of meditation, I think it would be useful, Marianne, to maybe give a description of centering prayer, hear from you, how you would describe centering prayer.
Well, thank you for asking that question. It is a time of consenting to the love and presence and action of God. So it is letting go of my own will, if you will, and plans and anxieties, and to just be present to what is, and in however God chooses to express God's self in my own life, even though it may be largely unconscious to me, although I may feel nothing, if you will, or nothing special. Some forms of meditation are concentrative, so it's a focusing of attention. This is receptive, so it is a consent and a matter of intention. And so that is the basic contextual idea. It's not to stop thoughts because they are inevitable. It's just not to dwell on them or any kind of perception. It's allowing. And then, ever so gently, that extends into one's personal life so that I and you and others are not so triggered, if you will, by life events. And the same with the work, so that we can observe, pause, non-identify with what's going on, and self-remember by seeing both myself and the other, and knowing that there's something more that's available and possible for both of us, if you will.
That's a wonderful summary of both the work and meditation and their interaction. I really love that, Marianne. I'm glad that we got that recorded here. I think that could really be used as a really distinctive statement of exactly what we're trying to get at.
Yes, it is a gift to be given these two methods, if you will, to know God and to become a full human being, or on the path to becoming a full human being in the fullest and most wonderful sense.
And that really brings us back to the two quotes that you offered at the very beginning, is that the path of spiritual development recognizes everybody as, well, I remember just a quote from Gurdjieff came to me. Is he said that we're all equally beggars in the work.
Yes.
And so all of us come from the same place, and we all face the same difficulties, and that's just how I've been encouraged so much by just what I've already described. But Marianne, this has been wonderful, and we're coming up on 26 minutes now into the recording. We try to be respectful of people's times and know that people are busy and maybe don't want to, can devote 30 minutes, but maybe not an hour. But
Yes.
Marianne, I want to always would want to give you an opportunity, anything that maybe is particularly in your mind right now, or maybe sharing about the way that the work is meeting you in your life now.
The work, if I am blessed in a given day, comes to meet me in a variety of ways. And when I say meet me, I mean it will hand me one of its tools, because I have high valuation and great affection for the work. And therefore I believe it attracts the work and allows me to have a moment of spaciousness before reactivity. On a good day, I won't say that it's always the case for me, but I do have real affection for the work and the work teachers and what I have been given, and the lineage from Mr. Gurdjieff through Maurice Nicoll, through Tim Cook, through my friends and colleagues within the school itself. So self-remembering becomes kind of the core practice, and from there, everything else is given, if you will.
And that self-remembering is thinking about myself as a loved child of God, an eternal being, a being that is inhabited by the divine. It's no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me.
Yes.
And then remembering that it's not just me, it's Marianne, and
That's
it's
right.
everybody around us.
Yes, yes, it's Roland. Now, now.
The kingdom of heaven is at hand.
Absolutely, it is. Yes, I can sense that, Roland.
And that's just a wonderful place to be in, because we have some specific methods, that spiritual practices that we can describe with objectivity. It doesn't require people to believe in Marianne as a guru or Roland as a guru. We're not any different than the people around us. And I think that that's what's been so inspiring to me. And for sure, just like I said at the beginning, thank you for your presence and all the work that you've done and the community has done to create a wonderful monastery without walls.
Yes, may it be so for the glory of God, Roland, and for all of us to become who we are destined to be, if you will,
I
in
love that,
Christ.
bringing it all the way around to
Yeah.
where we started, Marianne. I love that.
Yes, I do too, Roland. Thank you.
Well, Marianne, why don't we conclude there? We can have another conversation in the future. This doesn't have to be the last time that we do this.
Yes, I hope not. Yes, yes. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'll kind of wind things up. Thank you, everybody, for being here on this second episode of the Work and Meditation. We're so grateful to have been joined by Marianne Best, Abbess of Church of Conscious Harmony in Austin, Texas. Please, if you like this video, please hit the like button, and you can subscribe to this channel, The Work and Meditation. So thank you for being with us, and God bless you as you go into your day.
Thank you, Roland.